A working dog suddenly barked furiously at a young black female student. No one understood what was happening, but behind those barks lay the cold darkness of a horrifying conspiracy that had been brewing for 2 decades. And when the dreadful secret was revealed, it was already too late. Inside Terminal C of the Red Hollow International Airport in Ohio, the early morning air was especially bustling. Announcements echoed continuously, blending with the sound of rolling suitcase wheels against the shiny tiled floor, creating a familiar chaotic symphony found in busy airports during peak hours. Ethan Thatcher stood silently in a corner of the hallway, his sharp eyes carefully observing the stream of people. As an airport police officer with over 20 years of experience, Ethan prided himself on his observational skills, but his partner, Bishop, a Belgian Malinois canine with an extraordinary sense of smell and acute senses, was the one who always helped him excel in his duties. While Ethan watched the hurried passengers, Bishop suddenly came to an abrupt halt. The dog's ears stood up straight, its tense, muscular body frozen, with the muscles along its back visibly tensing as though ready to pounce. Ethan immediately noticed his partner's unusual behavior. He placed a gentle hand on the dog's neck, attempting to calm it, but to no avail. Bishop let out a soft whimper, his dark brown eyes fixated on a figure in the distance. Ethan quickly shifted his gaze in the direction Bishop was staring at. About a dozen meters away, amidst the crowded stream of people heading toward the airplane gate, a young black female student stood out with an odd presence. She wasn't carrying much luggage, only a simple black backpack. She wore an oversized denim jacket, her naturally curly hair tied back at the nape of her neck, and large black-framed glasses covered her eyes, as if trying to hide her inner expression. Her slow gait gave the impression of wariness, as she lowered her head to avoid the gazes of those around her. Thatcher furrowed his brow. "That's strange," he muttered. Bishop had never reacted this strongly to anyone before, especially not to a harmless-looking young girl like her. But just as Ethan was lost in thought, Bishop suddenly barked. The bark was sharp and rapid, like an alarm bell, causing everyone nearby to jump and turn around. The dog yanked its leash hard, nearly pulling Ethan forward as it attempted to approach the young girl. "Bishop, calm down," Ethan ordered, gripping the leash tightly, feeling the strength of his partner trying to pull him ahead. The girl, Alicia Carter, heard the unusual barking and froze for a moment. A brief flash of tension crossed her young face, but she quickly picked up her pace, lowering her head even further to avoid the curious stares of others. It seemed like she was trying to avoid any unwanted attention. "Excuse me, could you please stop for a moment?" Ethan called after her. Alicia visibly flinched, quickening her steps even more. But before she could get far, Bishop rushed forward, blocking her path and standing firm, continuing to bark loudly. Passengers hurriedly stepped aside, staring curiously at the trembling young girl. Alicia stood still, her face turning from anxiety to sheer panic. She clutched her backpack to her chest, as if trying to protect something valuable inside. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but could you please come with me for a moment?" Ethan approached, his voice polite yet firm, his eyes carefully studying Alicia's young but tense face. Alicia's dark eyes slowly lifted to meet Ethan's. Her gaze was deep and mysteriously unsettling, and she slightly parted her lips as if she were about to say something. But before Ethan could react, her face suddenly drained of color. Her legs buckled, and she collapsed onto the ground, fainting in front of the crowd. Her backpack fell to the cold tile floor, spilling open. Among the usual personal items, an old metal military dog tag clattered out, making a chilling sound. Ethan bent down to pick it up, his heart suddenly racing. His eyes were fixed on the clearly visible name engraved on the tarnished tag: Daniel Carter. A name he never thought he would hear again, the name of a close teammate who had mysteriously disappeared over 20 years ago in Afghanistan. Ethan turned to Alicia, who was now unconscious in the arms of airport medical staff who had rushed to help. A strong sense of foreboding surged in his chest. What was happening here? Why had Bishop reacted so strangely to this girl? And more importantly, who was Alicia Carter really? And what dreadful secret was she carrying? Ethan stood still, gripping the dog tag tightly in his hand, his eyes never leaving the young, unconscious face of the mysterious girl. He understood now that from this moment onward, the once peaceful life at Red Hollow Airport would change forever, bringing with it the darkest secrets from a past he had thought was buried forever. And everything had only just begun. The cold sensation of the metal dog tag was still vivid in Ethan Thatcher's palm, causing him to stand frozen amidst the murmurs of the surrounding passengers. His eyes never left Alicia Carter, who was still unconscious on the stretcher. Alicia's face, peaceful in sleep, exuded a fragile, vulnerable appearance that was starkly different from the mysterious, alert look she had earlier. Ethan carefully examined the dog tag once again, the characters seeming to cut through the layers of time. Carter, Daniel, U.S. Army, Afghanistan. His heart pounded, and memories he thought were long buried surged back sharply. Daniel Carter was a name Ethan had never forgotten over the past 2 decades. Daniel was not only a close comrade, but also a friend who had saved Ethan's life numerous times on the battlefield. He had gone missing during a top-secret mission, officially declared dead, but no body was ever found. Now, this young girl lying here bore the name Carter and was holding Daniel's precious dog tag. Ethan felt a torrent of suspicion swell within him. Something was wrong, but he couldn't quite figure it out. "Mr. Thatcher, here is the girl's belongings," a medical staff member spoke up, pulling Ethan out of his reverie. He took Alicia's backpack from the staff member's hands and immediately noticed something unusual. The bag felt lighter than it looked. It didn't contain the clothes or personal items he expected, but instead there were a few old files, a notebook, and a crumpled letter. Ethan quickly scanned the room and decided to open the letter first. The old military letter was marked Top Secret in the corner. Hastily written but careful, with handwriting that was eerily familiar. It was Daniel Carter's handwriting. "Alicia, my dear daughter. If you are reading this letter, it means I am no longer here to protect you. The people hunting you will never stop, for you are the only key to a secret I had to keep hidden with my life. Go to Ethan Thatcher at Red Hollow Airport. He is the only one you can trust, the one who will help you understand everything. Please be cautious, Alicia. What they are after must not fall into the wrong hands. I love you, always. Daniel Carter." Each word in the letter made Ethan's heart feel as though it were choking. His breath came in quick gasps, his chest heavy. What secret was Daniel talking about? And who were these people hunting Alicia, a high school girl not even 18 years old? As Ethan was still submerged in confusion, his phone vibrated violently. He glanced at the screen. A strange number, no name displayed. "Ethan Thatcher here," he answered quickly, his voice tense with caution. There was a terrifying silence on the other end, lasting a few seconds, before a cold voice finally spoke. The soft white light from the ceiling of the airport's medical room slowly washed over Alicia, causing her eyes to squint as she gradually regained consciousness. The first sensation she felt was the coldness of the metal bed and the strong antiseptic smell that filled the air. Alicia blinked several times, trying to adjust to this unfamiliar space. Beside the bed, Ethan Thatcher stood silently, his eyes fixed intently on her. In his hand, he still clutched the old dog tag, as if afraid it might disappear at any moment. When Alicia turned to look at him, she instinctively shuddered. "You're awake." Ethan's voice was gentle, but his deep tone carried a sense of calm authority that made Alicia feel slightly safer, though the deep fear still lingered in her eyes. "You're Thatcher, right?" Alicia asked cautiously, her large brown eyes shimmering with anxiety. "Yes. How do you know my name?" Ethan asked softly, trying to reassure her. "My dad, Daniel Carter, wrote your name in a letter he left behind." Alicia's voice trembled slightly as she tried to sit up, her gaze never leaving Ethan's, as if she was searching for confirmation from him. "He said that if I were ever in danger, you were the only one I could trust." Alicia's words struck Ethan like a sharp knife, piercing deep into his memory and making his heart ache. Daniel Carter had been his closest friend in the military. Missing for over 20 years in a covert mission in Afghanistan, Daniel was declared dead by the military, but Ethan had always felt something was wrong, as though the truth had been hidden. "The letter your father left, do you have it with you?" Ethan asked gently, his voice now tinged with both nervousness and caution. Alicia nodded weakly, her eyes flicking toward her old backpack lying motionless on a chair beside the bed. Ethan stepped forward, carefully opening the backpack. Inside, there were advanced math textbooks, a notebook, and beneath them he found a carefully sealed yellowed letter. Alicia watched Ethan open the letter, her breath trembling slightly. The familiar handwriting of Daniel Carter appeared clearly before Ethan's eyes, each word heavy with the worries of a father facing the unknown dangers threatening his daughter. "Dear Thatcher, if you're reading this letter, it means I have failed to protect that secret. Alicia is in great danger. They, the people from the RAEON organization, will stop at nothing to get what I left for her. The military secret we uncovered in Kandahar has never disappeared. It still exists, and it is more dangerous than we ever imagined. Please protect Alicia at all costs. She is innocent. Daniel Rayon." The name echoed like a warning bell in Ethan's mind. He knew about the organization, a secret underground intelligence group specializing in handling classified cases, often using extreme measures to ensure permanent silence. Ethan looked up at Alicia, his eyes filled with concern and determination. "Do you know why they're after you?" Ethan asked softly. Alicia swallowed hard, her small hand gripping the edge of the white blanket. Her voice quivered as she answered, "My dad was part of the Helix project. Before he disappeared, he took important documents to prevent Rayon from continuing to exploit them. I don't know the details, but a few weeks ago, strange people started following me. They ransacked our apartment, searched everything like they were looking for something. I'm scared, Thatcher. I don't know who to trust anymore except you." Alicia's last words were almost a whisper, soaked in tears, causing Ethan's heart to tighten. He understood better than anyone that what Daniel Carter had left behind was definitely not just ordinary documents. That secret was significant enough for a dangerous organization like RAEON to stop at nothing, even pursuing an innocent young girl like Alicia. Ethan gently placed his hand on her small shoulder, his voice now full of resolve. "Listen to me, Alicia. I promise I will protect you no matter what. We will find out the truth and stop Rayon. But right now, you need to trust me completely. Do you understand?" Alicia nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, but also filled with determination. For the first time since this strange story had begun, she no longer felt alone. But just as Ethan was about to say more, his phone buzzed with an urgent message. He skimmed through it, his face paling rapidly. The message was brief, but enough to send a chill down his spine. "They're coming. Get her out of there immediately." Ethan quickly grabbed Alicia's hand, pulling her off the bed. "Let's go. We have to leave now." As soon as the words left his mouth, hurried footsteps echoed in the hallway, and Ethan knew the real chase was about to begin. The sound of rapid footsteps in the hallway of the medical room echoed like the beating of a war drum, signaling an imminent danger approaching fast. Ethan Thatcher tightened his grip on Alicia's wrist, his eyes growing cold as he quickly calculated the fastest escape route. He had faced many dangerous situations in his career, but this time was different. The victim to protect wasn't a colleague, but a small, innocent girl who was being pulled into a whirlpool of a dark past that even he didn't fully understand. "Come on, Alicia. We have to move quickly," Ethan whispered urgently, pulling Alicia up from the bed. The young girl wobbled as she stood, her legs unsteady as they hit the floor. Ethan quickly caught her, his eyes full of concern. Just as they were about to leave the cramped room, the door suddenly swung open. Two men in white lab coats quickly entered, their cold eyes scanning both Ethan and Alicia. One of them spoke first, his voice calm yet carrying an underlying pressure. "Sorry, Mr. Thatcher, we are the doctors on duty tonight. The young lady needs to be examined further immediately. Please step aside." Their professional demeanor made it hard to doubt them, but Ethan immediately sensed something was off. Their appearance was too sudden, too hurried, and the way the man had called his name with a false familiarity triggered Ethan's seasoned police instincts, making him alert. "I wasn't informed about this," Ethan responded firmly, stepping between Alicia and the two men. "And the patient is fine. She doesn't need further examination." The second man stepped forward, his gaze colder than the first. He said nothing, but his hand went into his lab coat pocket, as if preparing to pull something out. Ethan's instincts kicked into high gear, but before he could act, Alicia gently tugged on his sleeve. She looked at him with panicked eyes. "Mr. Thatcher, they're not doctors." Alicia's words were a signal, and the two imposters immediately lunged forward. Ethan reacted quickly, pushing Alicia behind him. A violent struggle ensued in the small medical room. Ethan fought back, but the attackers worked together with remarkable skill and precision. One of them quickly drew a small syringe and, faster than a flash, injected it into Ethan's neck. The world blurred, and his body quickly grew weak. His head spun, and the last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Alicia, desperately thrashing, being dragged out of the room. The sound of footsteps faded, blending with Alicia's terrified screams, slowly sinking into the foggy haze of his mind. When Ethan awoke, the medical room was in chaos. Medical staff, police officers, and airport security personnel were bustling around, checking the scene. Ethan sat up, still groggy from the sedative. A security officer hurried over to help him, concern in his voice. "Mr. Thatcher, are you okay? What happened?" Ethan rubbed his temple, trying to piece together the jumbled memories. "Where is Alicia? Has she been taken?" The security officer nodded helplessly, his face tight with anxiety. "We're trying to trace her through the surveillance system, but all the cameras in this area were disabled at the same time. They're not ordinary people, Mr. Thatcher. I think this was a planned operation." "Of course," Ethan replied grimly, his eyes filled with bitterness. "They're Raeon. The name made the security officer blanch. "Rayon? But that's just a rumor, right?" Ethan shook his head slowly, his voice sharp. "I've heard of them for a long time. The Raeon organization is real. They handle the most secretive, darkest missions. Missions the official military can't touch. If Rayon is involved, that means Alicia is in serious danger." He stood up, the weight of helplessness pressing down on his chest like a heavy stone. Ethan knew he couldn't wait any longer. He pulled out his phone and turned to the security officer. "I need a car immediately, and get in touch with Cassie Vasquez, former special ops who worked with me. We'll need her help." About 10 miles east of Red Hollow Airport, a fake ambulance controlled by Rayon silently stopped along a desolate road. Alicia was tightly bound, her mouth gagged with tape, her eyes wide with fear. A man, dressed in black, stepped out of the vehicle, his cold eyes scanning the surroundings. He was Eric Shaw, the commander of the RAEON Special Forces, a man notorious for never failing a mission. Eric bent down and looked at Alicia, his gaze disturbingly calm. "Sorry for the inconvenience, little girl, but your father left something important behind, and we need it at any cost. If you cooperate, this will be easier." Alicia squirmed weakly, but her eyes were full of fury and determination. Eric gave a small, empty smile and patted his subordinate on the shoulder. "Take her back to the base. We don't have much time." Alicia was pulled back into the dark vehicle once more. In her mind, she could clearly see Ethan Thatcher's face, his promise to protect her. Alicia knew Ethan was coming, but would he make it in time when Rayon, the most terrifying organization she'd ever known, had already set its plan into motion? The young girl closed her eyes, her heart trembling, as the fake ambulance slowly pulled away, taking her deeper into the darkness. A darkness filled with danger and secrets, where no one could hear her cries for help. The fake ambulance of Rayon gradually disappeared around the winding turns, leaving behind a thin dust cloud that blurred the dim streetlights. Ethan Thatcher stood still, his gaze fixed on the direction the vehicle had just vanished, as if trying to hold on to the last shred of hope. He knew all too well that Alicia was now in the hands of one of the most dangerous organizations he had ever encountered, RAEON, an entity that operated in the shadows, leaving no trace but fear and confusion in its wake. Thatcher gripped his phone tightly, his mind spinning with countless plans and possibilities, but he knew he couldn't tackle this rescue alone. This situation had gone beyond what he could handle on his own, and he needed a partner who was capable, smart, and quick enough to deal with a sophisticated organization like RAEON. He quickly scanned through his contacts, his finger stopping on a familiar name: Cassie Vasquez. Cassie had once been an exceptional special operative, a strong woman with sharp combat and situational analysis skills rarely seen. She had retired, opting for a quiet life in the suburbs to escape the complications of her past. But Ethan knew that, given the current situation, only Cassie could help him turn the tide. The call connected quickly, and Cassie's calm, familiar voice came through the line. "Thatcher, long time no see. I'm guessing you didn't call just to check on me?" Ethan took a deep breath, trying to calm the tension rising within him. "Cassie, I need your help. A young girl named Alicia was kidnapped by Rayon. This is related to the Helix project from years ago. Her father is Daniel Carter." Cassie paused for a few seconds, as though organizing the dark secrets they had faced in the past. Finally, her voice came through, firm and resolute. "Rayon's back? All right, Thatcher, tell me what you need me to do." Ethan exhaled in relief, but only for a brief moment. He quickly summarized the current situation, describing the location where Alicia was taken, along with the information he had gathered about the RAEON agents posing as doctors. Cassie decided quickly, "Take Bishop with you. Meet me at the old rendezvous point in an hour. I'll get the weapons and equipment ready. If RAEON is involved, we don't have much time." Exactly 1 hour later, Ethan and Bishop arrived at a small, quiet house on the outskirts, where Cassie was waiting for them. Cassie Vasquez stepped out of the house, her confident and strong demeanor unchanged from years ago. She wore a lightweight black tactical outfit, her ponytail high, revealing a stern, determined face. Bishop looks as healthy as ever. Cassie smiled slightly, petting the working dog as it sniffed around. Healthy enough to lead us this time, Ethan responded quickly. What have you prepared? Cassie opened the back of her black SUV, revealing an array of high-tech equipment and specialized weapons. I've tracked a traffic camera signal. That fake ambulance is heading toward an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts. They'll likely hold Alicia there, at least for the time being. Ethan nodded, determination in his heart. We need to move quickly. Rayon doesn't keep hostages alive long if they don't get what they want. As night fell, it cloaked the abandoned warehouse area in a chilling darkness. Cassie and Ethan carefully approached from the back, while Bishop led the way, carefully sniffing the air with every step. The warehouse, once used for construction materials, had been abandoned and now served as an ideal hideout for secret operations. Inside, Rayon's Special Forces team, equipped with modern gear and assault rifles, guarded every corner with vigilance. Eric Shaw, the leader of the team, stood beside Alicia. He was calm and cold, yet dangerous, his sharp gaze piercing through every tremble of the frightened girl. "We don't want to hurt you," Eric said softly, his voice as cold as ice. "Just tell us where your father hid the Helix documents, and you can go back to your normal life." Alicia tried to remain calm, her voice weak but determined. "I don't know what you're talking about. My father never mentioned anything." Eric sighed lightly, stepping back, his voice dropping low, filled with threat. "I've tried to be patient, Alicia, but you're running out of time." At that moment, a small sound echoed from the back door of the warehouse. Eric snapped his head around, signaling to the other agents to be alert. But before they could react, a smoke grenade landed in the center of the warehouse, quickly releasing a thick cloud of white smoke that obscured their vision. A fierce gunfight erupted instantly. Cassie and Ethan rushed in, taking full advantage of the surprise, taking down several of the first agents. Bishop darted through the smoke, staying close to Ethan, guiding him toward Alicia's location. Cassie moved like a shadow, her gun firing with precision, taking out each Rayon agent one by one. Ethan quickly reached Alicia and cut the ropes binding her. "Alicia, we need to go now." Just then, Eric Shaw appeared behind Ethan, his gun aimed directly at his head. But Bishop immediately lunged, biting Eric's hand hard, causing him to drop his weapon and scream in pain. "Let's go!" Cassie yelled, covering Ethan as he helped Alicia escape the danger zone. They ran outside as gunshots rang out behind them. Once they reached the car, Ethan looked back at Alicia, worry in his eyes. "Are you okay?" Alicia weakly nodded, her eyes filled with both gratitude and lingering fear. "Yes. Thank you, sir." The vehicle sped away from the scene, leaving behind the chaotic battle that had just unfolded. Ethan knew the real battle was far from over. It had only just begun. The SUV sped down the empty road, leaving behind the dimming city lights that gradually faded into the darkness. The atmosphere inside the vehicle was heavy with silence, broken only by the steady sound of the tires on the asphalt, echoing like the frantic beating of Alicia's heart in her chest. Ethan Thatcher sat next to the driver's seat, his sharp eyes fixed on the rearview mirror, always alert to the possibility of being followed. Cassie Vasquez drove with complete focus, occasionally glancing at Alicia through the rearview mirror with a thoughtful and worried expression. Sitting quietly in the back seat, Alicia felt her entire body tremble lightly, the adrenaline from the earlier confrontation still coursing through her veins. Her mind swirled with chaotic images, the cold, terrifying stare of Eric Shaw, the sharp crack of gunfire, and Ethan's resolute, brave gaze as he rushed to save her. It was all too much for a 17-year-old girl like Alicia, who was used to math competitions at school and the peaceful solitude of her book-filled room at home. She closed her eyes gently, trying to steady her breath and calm the panic rising inside her. But Alicia quickly realized she couldn't escape the truth. Something much bigger was happening, and it wasn't just about her father or simple military secrets. Alicia Carter herself was undoubtedly holding something far more significant than anything she had ever known. After a prolonged silence, Cassie broke the tense atmosphere. "We're safe for now. Thatcher, we should take Alicia to my place in the east suburbs. Rayon won't give up easily, and we need a more secure and hidden place." Ethan nodded quickly, his eyes still filled with vigilance. "Agreed. We need somewhere we can talk things through more clearly." Cassie turned the car onto a narrow, quiet road, the trees lining both sides becoming dense, surrounding them with dark, sparse forests. A moment later, they stopped in front of a small wooden house, modest yet sturdy, nestled discreetly between the tall pine trees. The only light coming from the house cast a warm glow, making it look cozy amidst the cold, dark night. Inside the house, Cassie turned on a small desk lamp, and the living room instantly lit up with a soft yellow light, giving Alicia a rare moment of peace amidst the current chaos. Bishop lay silently at Ethan's feet, his sharp brown eyes still scanning and listening for the faintest sounds from outside. Ethan looked at Cassie, his gaze filled with impatience. "Cassie, can you tell me everything now? Why is Alicia so important that Rayon would go to such lengths to hunt her down?" Cassie looked at Alicia, her expression softening with sympathy and regret. "Alicia, what I'm about to say might be hard for you to accept, but this is the truth about who you are, a secret your father spent his life trying to protect." Alicia swallowed hard, her heart pounding in her chest, a mix of fear and curiosity coursing through her. "Please, tell me. I need to know. I don't want to run anymore." Cassie sighed deeply, her voice low but clear as she began. "You're part of a secret genetic project called Helix, a top-secret military program designed to create human beings with superior physical abilities, and most importantly, enhanced intellect. Years ago, your father, Daniel Carter, when he was still an Army officer, discovered this project during a covert mission in Afghanistan. Shocked by the inhumanity of the program, he decided to stop it. Daniel took the most important data, but what no one expected was that the most crucial aspect of the Helix project he took was you, Alicia." Alicia froze, each word from Cassie cutting deep into her mind like invisible daggers. Alicia trembled, her hands clenched so tightly they turned white. I'm a product of artificial creation? That can't be true. I have parents. I was born normally." Cassie shook her head gently. "No, Alicia, you're still the daughter of Daniel and your mother. But before you were born, your DNA was tampered with using genetic technology from the Helix project. Your father didn't know this at first, and by the time he found out, it was too late. Rayon, the organization behind the project, tried to retrieve you to complete the program, but your father took you far away and hid you for years. That's why he disappeared mysteriously and was presumed dead. Daniel sacrificed his life, his honor, and his career, all to protect you from Rayon." Alicia burst into tears, hot tears streaming down her cheeks. She felt as though she had been betrayed by life itself, betrayed by the past she had always trusted. From a normal student with a passion for math, she had suddenly turned into a product of the military, a human being manipulated before she was even born. So, those strange abilities I have with math, were they created by them?" Alicia whispered through her sobs, her voice choked with pain. Cassie nodded slowly. "Exactly. The Helix project focused specifically on enhancing intelligence, calculation abilities, decryption, and logical reasoning. You are the only successful case. The genius-level math ability you possess isn't a coincidence, Alicia. That's what made you Rayon's ultimate target." Alicia collapsed to the floor, too weak to stand. Each of Cassie's words echoed in her mind like a sentence, like a cruel curse she would have to carry for the rest of her life. Ethan approached, gently placing a hand on her shoulder, his eyes filled with protection and understanding. "Alicia, listen to me. You're still you, no matter what the past is. Those things don't define who you are. We'll get through this." But Alicia couldn't hear anything else. In her mind, painful questions screamed loudly, and she knew that from this moment on, her life would never be the same again. The first rays of morning sunlight poured into the small wooden house, casting a fragile light over everything, as if trying to chase away the darkness that still clung to Alicia. The young girl sat motionless by the window, her distant gaze fixed on the sparse forest in the distance, but her mind was still in chaos, struggling with the horrifying truth about herself that Cassie had just revealed. Alicia had never imagined that she, a regular student with simple dreams about her future, was the product of a brutal and inhumane secret military project. Cassie gently approached, placing a cup of hot tea on the table, her gaze soft and full of understanding. "Alicia, are you feeling any better?" Alicia looked down at the steaming cup, paused for a few seconds, then softly asked, "If I really am a product of the Helix project, then who was responsible for creating me? Who is to blame for all of this?" Cassie and Ethan exchanged tense looks, before Cassie sighed and slowly responded. The head of the Helix research team at the time was Dr. Julian Crest. He was a genius scientist who worked on top-secret military projects. After the Helix project failed and was shut down, Crest disappeared completely. No one knows if he's still alive or dead, but... Ethan continued, his voice grave. "But if anyone is still alive who could provide us with the most complete answers, it would certainly be Crest." Alicia raised her eyes to meet them, her gaze now filled with a mix of determination and confusion. "We need to find him. I have to know why he did this to me, and what I really am in the eyes of those behind the Helix project." Cassie nodded, her eyes full of sympathy and resolve. "I've been searching for Crest for years with no concrete leads. However, we still have a small hope. A source from the past told me that Crest secretly moved to a secluded farm in the outskirts of Vermont. We might find him there." Without hesitation, the group quickly packed their bags and set off. The SUV rolled down long roads, through small towns and desolate, empty highways, heading toward Vermont, where Alicia's faint hope awaited. Dr. Julian Crest's farm lay deep behind rolling hills covered in lush green trees. It was a large wooden house surrounded by a sturdy fence. When the vehicle stopped, Ethan and Cassie carefully scanned the area, while Alicia stepped out of the car, her legs still trembling with anxiety. An older man emerged from the house, his thin frame surprisingly agile. It was Julian Crest, his sharp, cold eyes full of suspicion and caution. "Who are you, and why have you come here?" he asked. Cassie stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Dr. Crest, we need to talk to you about the Helix project. This is Alicia Carter. She's the one you created over 17 years ago." Upon hearing Alicia's name, Crest's expression changed immediately. The coldness melted away, replaced by a mix of surprise and an unsettling hint of obsession from the past. He stared at Alicia for a long moment, then sighed softly and turned to go inside the house. "Come in. It's better not to discuss this outside." Inside the modest but tidy living room, Crest sat in a large chair, remaining silent for a long while before speaking in a low, somber voice. Helix was initially funded by the military to create soldiers who were superior in both physical and intellectual abilities. But the project quickly got out of control. The ambition of those behind Helix was to create a completely new generation of humans, with cognitive and connective abilities far beyond normal humans. He turned to look at Alicia, his gaze full of remorse. "Alicia, you're not the only one. But you are the first and only complete success of the project. All the others failed or suffered dangerous complications, but your intelligence was enhanced to an extraordinary level. Your mathematical and logical reasoning abilities are not just genius, they are superhuman. That's why Rayon covets you so much." Alicia fell silent, her hands trembling, struggling to contain the rage and despair rising within her. "You said there are others. What happened to them?" Crest hesitated, his voice full of regret. "They still exist, but their lives are not normal. Helix didn't just enhance intellect, it also created a neurological connection and collective memory among the test subjects. This means, Alicia, sometimes you can feel them, and they can feel you, through memories, dreams, or instincts you've never been able to explain. Rayon knows this, and they want to control all successful individuals." Alicia shuddered. Strange memories and bizarre dreams from her childhood suddenly made sense in a way she never expected. This truth made her feel trapped between two worlds: the ordinary world she once believed she belonged to, and the world of artificial beings created by the Helix Project. "So, did my father know about this?" Alicia asked, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes," Crest nodded, his eyes filled with regret. "Daniel was a brave soldier. When he discovered Helix and learned that his daughter was the most successful test subject, he sacrificed everything to protect you. Daniel took the important data, but he also knew that one day you would become a target." Alicia fell silent, the pain and isolation engulfing her mind. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, gently reassuring her, then turned to Crest. "Now you understand, Crest. We can't let Rayon capture Alicia, or anyone else. You have to help us put an end to this project once and for all." Crest looked up at the group, his eyes filled with obsession and deep determination. "Then we don't have much time. Rayon will never give up. The real fight has only just begun." The haunting words of Dr. Julian Crest still echoed in Alicia's mind as they left the small farm nestled between the Vermont hills. "You're not the only one." That revelation left Alicia both terrified and strangely hopeful. Throughout her life, she had always felt different, like a misplaced puzzle piece that didn't belong anywhere. But now, Alicia knew, out there somewhere were others like her, people created from the same mysterious and ruthless program called Helix. As the car silently drove down the small road leading out of Vermont, Alicia sat quietly, her gaze fixed on the snowy, dense forest outside the window. She tried to calm her mind, but the more she tried, the clearer the strange fragments of memories became in her head. They felt like images that didn't belong to her. Foreign roads, snow-covered forests, and most notably the faint image of a teenager she had never met. Ethan noticed the confused look on Alicia's face and gently asked, "Alicia, what are you thinking about?" She turned to him, her eyes flickering with concern and a hint of confusion. "Uncle Thatcher, Ever since Dr. Crest said there are others like me, I've started feeling something very strange. I keep dreaming about things I've never experienced. Could these be the people he was talking about? Cassie turned back to look at Alicia, her eyes full of attention. What are these dreams like, Alicia? They're very clear, Alicia hesitated before slowly recounting. I always see a young boy, about my age. He has light brown skin, slightly curly black hair, and always seems terrified. I see him running through a snowy forest, scared, as if something terrifying is chasing him. Cassie and Ethan exchanged a look, and a shared thought passed between them. Ethan quickly pulled out a tablet from his bag, flipping through files that Cassie had gathered from old Helix records. He handed Alicia a blurry old photo, likely taken several years ago. In the photo was a Latino teenager whose face matched exactly the one in Alicia's dream. Is this him? Ethan asked softly. Alicia took the tablet, her breath quickening as she recognized the familiar face. Yes, it's him. Who is he? Cassie answered with a steady, thoughtful voice, Cain Rivera. According to the Helix files, Cain was the second subject to partially succeed. He also has extraordinary intelligence like you, Alicia, but in a different way. Crest noted that Cain had a unique ability in neural connectivity, which becomes stronger when other Helix subjects are nearby. So, what I'm seeing in my dreams is real? Alicia asked, trembling. Cassie nodded firmly. It's very likely that you're receiving Cain's memories and emotions. This fits with what Crest said. There's a neural and collective memory link between you and Cain. If he's being hunted, we can't let him fall into Rayon's hands. Ethan immediately contacted old sources to locate Cain Rivera. Not long after, an urgent report came through. Cain had just escaped a group of Rayon agents and was fleeing into the northern Maine woods. The source also confirmed that Rayon was actively hunting Cain with a large and extremely dangerous force. Without hesitation, the group quickly set off, heading north to search for Cain. Along the way, Alicia continuously felt Cain's fragmented memories and his fear. At times, she could clearly sense the biting cold of the snow around her, hear his rapid breath, and the frantic pounding of his heart in terror. Alicia gradually realized that the bond between her and Cain was stronger than she had ever thought, as if they were two parts of the same entity unconsciously searching for each other. After hours of relentless driving, the group reached the edge of the vast snowy forest. The snow was falling heavily, covering all traces, making the search even harder. But Alicia now felt Cain's emotions more clearly than ever. She pointed to a direction in the forest, her voice steady and resolute. Cain's that way, I'm sure. We need to hurry. He's very weak and scared. The group rushed into the snow-covered woods, with Bishop leading the way, sniffing for clues. After traveling a short distance, they heard noises in the distance, the sound of hurried footsteps and people shouting orders. Rayon was closing in on Cain. Alicia felt her heart ache as though her own life was in danger. She screamed desperately, Cain, we're coming, hang on. Cain Rivera, now exhausted, was kneeling in the deep snow. He shakily looked up, hearing Alicia's voice in his mind. Like a miracle, Cain felt an unusual strength surge within him, and he tried to stand again, moving toward the voice calling him. Just as Rayon closed in, Ethan's group arrived just in time. A fierce gunfight erupted amidst the white snowstorm. Cassie and Ethan coordinated flawlessly, taking down each Rayon agent decisively. Finally, Alicia rushed to Cain's side, helping him to stand and guiding him back to safety. The first time they met, Alicia and Cain looked at each other with deep emotion and gratitude, both realizing that the invisible connection had bound their fates together. In the arms of Ethan's team, Cain felt for the first time that he was no longer alone. Amidst the cold, white snow, the group understood that the real battle was just beginning. And they, Alicia and Cain, would be the key to deciding the fate of everyone. In the vast, snow-covered forest near Scranton, night descended with a cold, suffocating stillness, draping the trees in a blanket of icy white mist. The wind howled, as if heralding the approach of a fierce battle. Cain Rivera shivered, leaning his back against an ancient tree, his breath coming in rapid gasps as waves of freezing air burned into his lungs, draining him of his strength. His eyes pierced through the blinding snow, desperately trying to spot the figures of those chasing him from the RAEON organization, who were now very close. Behind him, the sound of hurried footsteps grew clearer. Cain clenched his fists, his heart pounding erratically. In the fleeting moments of despair, something strange happened. A rush of powerful emotion, an intense drive, surged through him from somewhere distant but deeply familiar. Cain realized that this was the sensation he'd experienced in his dreams over the past few days. It was Alicia Carter, the one with whom he shared a special connection, someone he'd never met but felt inexplicably close to. Not far away, Alicia ran swiftly with Ethan Thatcher and Cassie Vasquez, each of her footsteps leaving deep impressions in the thick snow. Inside her, emotions were in turmoil. Anxiety mixed with a strong hope that she would reach Cain in time to save him. Never before had Alicia felt more certain than now that she and Cain were two inseparable parts, bound by something far beyond ordinary understanding. "Hurry! Cain is just ahead!" Alicia shouted, her voice echoing across the freezing forest. At that moment, the RAEON agents led by Eric Shaw were closing in on Cain. Eric coldly gestured for his subordinates to spread out, tightening the encirclement around Cain. His eyes were sharp as knives, emanating a deadly aura as he moved closer to the exhausted teenager before him. "Cain Rivera," Eric said in a low, menacing voice, "stop resisting. If you cooperate, you still have a chance to survive." Cain looked up at Eric, his eyes full of defiance and hatred, even though his body trembled in the cold. "I'd rather die than go back to being your lab rat again," Cain spat. Eric narrowed his eyes, his face as cold as ice. "You'll regret those words," he growled. Just as Eric signaled for his team to advance, a flashbang grenade was thrown right in front of him, emitting a sharp, blinding light. Eric and his team stumbled, temporarily disoriented. That was the moment Ethan, Cassie, and Alicia arrived. The chaotic battle erupted fiercely in the snow-covered forest. Gunshots rang out, sharp and frequent, the sound of bullets tearing through the quiet night. Cassie and Ethan quickly coordinated with precision, fiercely countering the well-trained RAEON agents. In the midst of the chaos, Alicia dashed to Cain's side, for the first time directly facing the teenager from her dreams. The moment their eyes met, a powerful energy seemed to radiate through both their bodies, a strange force that left them both stunned for a few seconds. Both Alicia and Cain instantly realized that they didn't just share a gifted intellect, they shared emotions, memories, and even the deepest pains from the core of their souls. "It's me, Cain. It's Alicia," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Cain nodded slightly, his eyes softening for the first time, replacing the fear with an inexplicable trust in this strange yet familiar girl. "I knew you'd come. I've always felt you," he said. Together they stood up, swiftly moving under the protection of Ethan and Cassie, but Eric Shaw was not one to give up easily. He quickly regained control, ordering his agents to surround them. "You won't escape," Eric shouted, his voice full of fury. The tension was mounting. Ethan yelled for the group to focus and form a defensive stance, but Alicia and Cain froze, their eyes meeting, as if a shared thought suddenly sparked in both of their minds. "Alicia," Cain said quickly, "do you feel it? We're stronger when we're together." Alicia nodded decisively, for the first time feeling her instincts rising powerfully within her. "I understand. It feels like we can control this energy." They clasped hands, and immediately something extraordinary happened. Their minds intertwined, their intellectual capacities multiplying, allowing them to predict every move and step of their enemies. With their combined superior intellect, Alicia and Cain quickly provided precise instructions that helped Ethan and Cassie systematically take down each of Eric's special agents. Surprised by the strange coordination between the two teenagers, Eric was forced to retreat. Before vanishing into the night, he threw one final, cold threat. "You may have escaped this time, but Helix is far from over. We'll return to reclaim what's ours." As the sounds of the Rayon team's retreat faded, the group breathed a collective sigh of relief. Alicia and Cain exchanged glances, still in awe of the power they had just discovered. "What we just did, it was incredible," Cain whispered, his eyes wide with amazement. Alicia nodded, her gaze now burning with a newfound determination. "We'll never let Rayon hurt anyone again. Cain, from now on, we're not alone anymore." Cain gripped Alicia's hand tightly, for the first time feeling a clear sense of trust and hope. Under the faint moonlight in the snow-covered forest, the group understood that the real battle against Rayon had only just begun, and they, Alicia, Cain, Ethan, and Cassie, were the last hope to stop their dark plans once and for all. In the cold, snowy forest near Scranton, the battle had just ended, but the tension in the air still lingered. As the last footsteps of the Rayon agents faded, Alicia and Cain stood motionless, their hands still tightly clasped together as if to maintain the strange energy they had just discovered. The silver moonlight cast down on their youthful faces, lighting up their eyes that were filled with both surprise and fierce determination. Ethan Thatcher approached the two teenagers, his expression one of astonishment and slight skepticism. "What just happened? How did you two manage to work together like that?" Alicia turned to look at Cain, her eyes brightening as though she had finally found the missing piece of herself. She answered Ethan slowly but surely. "I don't know exactly, but when Cain and I are close to each other, my intellect and senses are heightened so much. It's as if we can predict and calculate every move of the opponent." Cain nodded quietly, his voice still slightly shaky but filled with unshakable resolve. "Helix didn't just create us individually, Mr. Thatcher. This project also created a connection between subjects. Alicia and I, we can feel that others are awakening too." Cassie stepped forward, her gaze focused and alert, as if she understood they were entering a new, more dangerous phase. "If you can sense other subjects, then Rayon is certainly doing the same. We need to stay one step ahead of them." The group quickly left the forest, returning to the safe house that Cassie had prepared in advance. There, with Cassie's help, Ethan quickly accessed old intelligence sources, trying to locate the remaining Helix subjects before Rayon could find them. Inside the small room filled with high-tech equipment, Alicia and Cain sat quietly, closing their eyes, trying to focus on the strange energy still flowing in their minds. For the first time, Alicia realized that her extraordinary intellect wasn't just limited to mathematics or logic. It also had the ability to connect and penetrate the minds of other subjects. She took a deep breath, her eyelids half closed, and her mind seemed to open up infinitely. Suddenly, Alicia felt the clear presence of 3 other people. 3 young minds, like hers and Cain's, held captive in a distant place. They were afraid, alone, but they were beginning to sense her too. Alicia opened her eyes, gasping, and looked at Cain with intense excitement. "I found them. 3 others are being held in some secret facility. They're very weak, but I think they're waking up like we did." Cassie quickly stepped forward, pulling up an electronic map on a large screen in front of the group. "Try to focus more, Alicia. Can you pinpoint their exact location?" Alicia nodded, closing her eyes again. This time, she focused more intently than ever, pushing her mind beyond ordinary limits. Her brain felt like a supercomputer scanning through vast amounts of geographical data, and the vague images slowly began to become clear. Finally, Alicia opened her eyes wide and pointed at a spot on the screen. "Here, an underground research facility, deep in the mountains of western North Carolina. I'm sure of it." Ethan looked at the spot Alicia had pointed to, his face immediately turning serious. "This is an old base that was used for highly classified intelligence operations during the Cold War. I've heard of it before, but I never imagined Rayon had taken it over and was using it to imprison the Helix subjects." Cassie quickly added, her voice cold and determined. "The security there will be tight, and the defense systems will be extremely complicated. We need a clear plan to infiltrate and rescue the subjects before Rayon can respond." The group quickly got to work. Cassie and Ethan checked their weapons and infiltration equipment while carefully planning their strategy. Meanwhile, Alicia and Cain spent time trying to familiarize themselves with and control their new abilities. They focused together, practicing their prediction skills, analyzing situations quickly, and learning more about how their neural connection helped them coordinate so effectively. 3 days later, at dusk, Ethan's team secretly approached Rayon's facility deep in the North Carolina mountains. Under a thick layer of camouflage, the entrances to the base were guarded by a system of cameras, heat sensors, and a patrolling Special Forces team. Alicia and Cain led the way, moving quietly but confidently, as if they had memorized every detail of the base's structure. Their enhanced intellect combined, they quickly decoded each layer of the complex security system, disabling sensors and deactivating surveillance cameras with astonishing precision. For the first time, Alicia felt that her special ability was completely within her control, like a natural, inseparable part of herself. Finally, they reached the holding area. Inside the dark room, 3 other Helix subjects, 2 males and 1 female, all very young, were imprisoned in isolation chambers. They looked at Alicia and Cain with eyes full of surprise and deep emotion, as if they had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Alicia placed her hand on the glass, feeling the powerful energy that connected all the Helix subjects together. She spoke softly, but with certainty. "We're here to get you out. Trust us, we don't have to suffer alone anymore." At that moment, the alarm bell blared throughout the base. RAEON had detected the breach, but this time, Alicia wasn't afraid. She turned to Cain, her eyes shining brighter than ever. "Cain, it's time to show Rayon that they can't control us anymore." The group was ready. The biggest battle against Rayon was only just beginning, but Alicia knew that this time they were fully awakened, and they would never fail again. The alarm bells blared loudly throughout the Helix Operations Center, the red lights flashing continuously, casting an eerie glow down the cold metal hallway, signaling that Alicia's team's presence was no longer a secret. Alicia glanced at Cain and the rescued Helix subjects, a brief moment of anxiety crossing her heart as she thought of the confrontation ahead. Ethan Thatcher stepped forward, his voice firm and battle-hardened, cutting through the chaos of the moment. "We don't have much time. Rayon knows we're here, and they won't hesitate to use every means at their disposal to eliminate anyone they see as a threat. Stay close. No one separates from the group." Cassie Vasquez immediately took point, quickly checking her weapon and signaling the group to move down the left corridor. The RAEON task force, led by Eric Shaw, appeared at the far end of the hall, their automatic weapons gleaming coldly under the red emergency lights. Shaw moved ahead, his cold eyes filled with determination and the ruthlessness of a highly trained assassin. "Thatcher, surrender the Helix subjects immediately. You have no way out." Ethan didn't respond, his unwavering gaze fixed on Shaw, the rifle in his hands raised and ready for battle. Cassie gave him a quick glance, a subtle nod signaling the silent coordination between two former teammates. In that brief moment, Alicia could feel the immense pressure weighing on her. She knew that, this time, everything depended on controlling the special power she and Cain shared. The battle erupted violently. The sound of gunfire echoed, sparks flying from the muzzle of rifles as they lit up the hall. Cassie and Ethan quickly provided cover, forming a solid defense to protect Alicia and the others behind them. However, the Rayon agents were too numerous and well-equipped, wielding everything from heavy machine guns to advanced bulletproof armor. In the midst of the chaos, Alicia gripped Cain's hand, feeling the surge of their neural link intensifying. She remained calm, took a deep breath, and let her mind synchronize with Cain's. Instantly, she felt the world around her slow down, every minute detail becoming clear and controllable. She spoke in a calm yet powerful tone. "Cain, focus on every movement. We can foresee them." Cain immediately complied, and together they quickly entered a state of heightened awareness, guiding the remaining Helix subjects safely through the storm of bullets. Yet the Rayon agents pressed on, tightening their encirclement and pushing Ethan's group into a perilous position. Just when Alicia thought they might hold their ground, a bullet unexpectedly pierced their defense, striking Ethan in the shoulder. He collapsed to the cold metal floor, blood spilling out, his face contorted in pain, but he still managed to raise his rifle and continue fighting. "Uncle Thatcher!" Alicia screamed in panic, feeling a sharp pain as if she had been shot herself. Cassie quickly rushed to Ethan, pulling him into a safer position and attempting to administer first aid. Ethan's voice grew weaker but remained resolute. "I'm fine, Cassie. Protect the kids. They're our real hope." Cassie looked at Ethan, her eyes momentarily filled with tears, but she quickly regained her composure, nodding and returning to the fight. Alicia stared at the blood dripping from Ethan's wound onto the floor, her heart filled with an overwhelming mixture of pain and rage. It was the first time in her life that she felt the raw brutality and cruelty of Rayon, willing to kill anyone to achieve their dark goals. She stood up straight, the strength of her anger and determination surging more powerfully than ever before. Alicia felt her mind suddenly open up, connecting deeply with the minds of the other Helix subjects who were trembling behind her. Her voice rang out, strong and commanding, like never before. "Stand up! We can't let them hurt anyone else. This power belongs to us, not RAEON." Alicia's words seemed to trigger something deep inside each of the Helix subjects. One by one, they stood up, their terrified expressions shifting to determination and courage, syncing with Alicia and Cain in an unprecedented unity. Alicia led the charge, using her special abilities to control the base's automated defense systems. Steel doors slammed shut quickly, blocking the RAEON agents from advancing. Sensors and surveillance cameras were instantly disabled by Alicia's superior analytical and control powers. Eric Shaw realized the situation was turning against him, and he yelled an order to retreat, but it was too late. Alicia had taken control of the entire base system, trapping the agents in areas they couldn't escape from. She stood there, in the hallway bathed in red emergency light, her eyes burning with power as she shouted, "You failed! Helix will never belong to you!" Cornered, Eric Shaw snarled in fury, struggling but powerless against Alicia's complete control. In the end, he and his agents were locked in a restricted section of the base, completely neutralized. Alicia quickly turned back to Ethan, kneeling beside him, her voice trembling but filled with emotion. "Uncle Thatcher, we did it. Please, hold on, I won't let you sacrifice yourself for me." Ethan gave a weak smile, his voice full of pride and reassurance. "I knew you would, Alicia. I always believed you could do something extraordinary." As silence fell over the Helix base after the brutal battle, Alicia understood that she had fully awakened. She was now ready to face everything, protect her loved ones, and finally break the relentless cycle of Helix. But the real battle still lay ahead. As the last gunshots faded and the Rayon agents were locked behind thick steel doors, Alicia remained kneeling beside Thatcher, feeling the faint breath of the man who had protected her until the very last moment. Ethan looked at Alicia, his eyes tired but filled with deep trust and pride. "You're going to be fine, Alicia. You have to go now. The job's not done. You and Cain have to erase this project for good." Alicia looked at Thatcher, her heart swelling with intense sorrow. Cassie quickly approached, gently lifting Ethan and speaking firmly. "He's right, Alicia. We don't have much time. If Rayon reinforcements arrive, we won't be able to fight them off again." Cain placed his hand on Alicia's shoulder, his gaze showing clear determination. "We need to get to the main data center immediately. Only when the servers are erased will the Helix project truly be over." Alicia took a deep breath, nodding to Cain. She turned to look at Ethan and Cassie one last time before leaving, her voice full of emotion yet resolute. "I will finish this. I won't let anyone suffer anymore." The two quickly made their way down to the deepest basement of the Helix facility, where the largest and most secure data center was located. The thick metal door to the server room was protected by a complex system of passwords and retinal scans, but with Alicia and Cain's exceptional intellect, those defenses were easily bypassed. When the door opened, Alicia and Cain froze at the sight inside. A vast space filled with hundreds of servers emitting a steady hum, their cold green lights flickering, creating an eerie sensation as if they had stepped into the mind of a giant machine that was alive. This was the central brain of Helix, the place where all the data and inhumane experiments that had caused so much suffering to Alicia, Cain, and others were stored. In that moment, Alicia felt her anger ignite, mixed with a fierce determination and hatred. Cain looked at Alicia, sensing the powerful emotions surging within her, and softly said, "This is the moment we give them back everything they did to us, Alicia." She nodded firmly, quickly walking to the central control panel and starting to access the system. Alicia's fingers moved swiftly over the keyboard, each keystroke precise and deliberate. With her extraordinary ability to analyze and control data, she swiftly breached the final firewalls protecting the core data. "Cain, get ready to destroy the hard drives as soon as I finish copying the delete command," Alicia signaled. Cain immediately prepared the small explosive blocks Cassie had given him earlier. While Alicia set up the command to erase all Helix data, Cain carefully placed the explosives at key points of the servers. But just as they were about to complete the task, a figure suddenly appeared in the doorway of the server room. Alicia spun around, her heart leaping when she realized the person standing there was Dr. Julian Crest, the man who created her and the entire project. Crest stepped forward, his eyes tired, his posture slumped with despair. "Alicia? Cain, do you really think deleting these files will make everything end?" Alicia looked at Crest, her voice cold but full of finality. "I'll do whatever it takes to ensure no one else has to endure this pain. You're the one who created all of this. You have no idea the suffering we've been through." Crest slowly shook his head, his gaze sad but serious. "You're wrong, Alicia. I understand better than anyone. I didn't want things to end up like this. But you need to know Helix isn't just about these files or a few special individuals like you. Helix is an idea, a human ambition to transcend natural limits. It has spread, and you can't erase it completely. You're not the end, Alicia. You're just the beginning." Alicia fell silent, Crest's words like a warning bell, making her realize that the task ahead was far bigger than she had imagined. However, that didn't shake her resolve. She looked directly into Crest's eyes, her voice clear and firm. "Even so, I won't let Helix exist as a weapon in the hands of people like Rayon. Right here, right now, Helix will end." Crest stepped back, as if finally accepting that everything was beyond his control. "You're right, Alicia. But remember, when Helix dies, what remains may be far more dangerous." Without saying another word, Crest turned and walked out of the room, leaving Alicia and Cain to face the most important decision of their lives. Alicia took a deep breath, turned back to the control panel, and entered the final command to delete the data. Cain stood by, ready to trigger the explosives. "Cain, now!" Alicia commanded firmly. Cain pressed the button, and the explosives detonated in quick succession, destroying the servers completely. The data from the Helix project vanished forever in the fiery blaze. Alicia and Cain quickly escaped, reuniting with Cassie and Ethan, who were waiting outside the facility. Watching the flames rise from the Helix facility, Alicia knew she had completed her mission, but in her heart, Crest's warning still echoed clearly. "You're not the end, you're just the beginning." Alicia understood that although Helix had ended, the real battle was just beginning. She was ready to face whatever came next, no matter what it was. Thick plumes of black smoke spiraled into the night sky, flames erupting fiercely, consuming the entire underground complex of the Helix project. From a distance, Alicia and her team watched in silence, the heat from the violent explosion still lingering in the air, dispelling the cold mist of the North Carolina forest. Her heart was both lightened and heavy, haunted by the final words of Dr. Crest that still echoed in her mind. "You are not the end, but the beginning." Alicia took a deep breath, turning to look at her teammates who had fought beside her through the dangerous battle. Cain stood right next to her, his calm gaze reflecting the distant firelight. Ethan Thatcher was leaning against a tree, his wounds hastily bandaged by Cassie, but the fatigue was evident in his eyes. Cassie Vasquez stood nearby, ever vigilant, scanning the surroundings, but her face was softened now, as if the burden had been lifted. Alicia slowly spoke, her voice soft but decisive, cutting through the tense silence that had just settled. "Helix is no more, but I think we all understand that this isn't truly over. The people behind Helix will never stop finding ways to exploit humanity." Cain nodded, his expression both serious and resolute. Crest was right. Helix was just a small part of a much larger issue. Groups like Rayon will always exist, always trying to control and manipulate us for their own selfish gain. Alicia turned to look at the remaining 3 Helix subjects, the young people who had just been rescued from the research facility. Their faces were filled with confusion, but also hope, as if they had finally found a real family after years of suffering and isolation and pain. "We can't run forever," Alicia continued, her voice stronger and clearer, pulling everyone's attention. "We have special abilities that Helix gave us, but they're not a curse. We can turn them into tools to help others, to protect them from organizations like Rayon. We don't have to be afraid anymore." Cassie looked at Alicia with admiration, a soft smile on her lips, and encouraged her. "Alicia is right. The abilities you all possess could save many lives. We can't let them become instruments for the dark ambitions of the powerful anymore." Ethan Thatcher, though still in pain from his wounds, tried to sit up straight, his voice deep and strong. "I've always believed in you. Don't let anyone control or exploit your extraordinary abilities again. Live free and choose the right path." Alicia looked at everyone, feeling for the first time in her life that she truly understood herself and her purpose. She turned to Cain, her teammate and kindred spirit who had been by her side through the tough journey. He smiled at her with confidence. "We used to think we were victims of this project, but not anymore. We will be the masters of our own fate." One of the 3 Helix subjects, a young girl with short hair, stepped forward and spoke softly, but with determination. "I always thought I was a defective product of a military project, with no future, no hope. But now I realize that none of us are products. We are human beings who can make a difference." The others nodded in agreement, their eyes shining with newfound faith and strength. Alicia knew that they were no longer just a collection of extraordinary individuals. They were a family, a powerful collective ready to face whatever lay ahead. Cain stepped forward, his voice strong and clear in the air. "From today on, we won't run anymore. We'll use our special abilities to protect the innocent, to fight against anyone who uses power to manipulate and oppress others. We won't just live for ourselves anymore, but live to make this world a better place." Everyone nodded in unison, their voices merging together, creating a strong, determined energy, a new resolve, a hopeful beginning. Alicia looked at them, her heart filled with peace and pride. She knew the road ahead would be full of challenges, but this time they were ready to face it with their own strength and choices. Cassie placed a hand on Alicia's shoulder, her voice soft but full of warmth and trust. "You've done something incredible, Alicia. We'll continue this journey together. We won't let anyone be alone again." As the group began to leave the area still ablaze, Alicia glanced back one last time at what had once been the Helix control center, now disappearing forever in a sea of flames. Dr. Crest's final words still echoed in her ears, but this time they were no longer a warning. They were a reminder, a mission she would carry with her for the rest of her life. "You are not the end, but the beginning." Alicia smiled gently, gripping Cain's hand tightly as they moved forward. She knew who she was now, and she understood she would never look back. For, from now on, she was no longer a product of Helix. She was Alicia Carter, a free person, a protector, and above all, the one who would decide the future for herself and for all others. The journey of choosing freedom for Alicia and her special friends had only just begun. But Alicia knew one thing for certain. This time, they would never be alone again. The gentle rays of the early sun filtered through the dense trees, casting a warm, peaceful golden hue over the cemetery. Alicia stood still in front of her father's grave, Daniel Carter, the man she had never truly had the chance to understand, yet the one who had sacrificed everything, even his life, to protect her from the cruel fate of the Helix project. On the simple stone marker, the words Daniel Carter, hero, father, protector, were clearly engraved, a poignant reminder of the love and courage he had left behind for her. Alicia gently placed a bouquet of white flowers on her father's grave, her eyes brimming with tears, but filled with strength and calm. She took a deep breath, her voice soft and whispering as if speaking a private confession between father and daughter. "Dad, I finally understand. I understand why you always tried to protect me from this horrible truth. But now I'm not afraid anymore. I won't let the past define who I am. I will live my own life, a life I choose." A few steps away, Ethan Thatcher stood beside Cassie Vasquez, Cain Rivera, and other Helix comrades, silently observing Alicia in this sacred moment. Ethan, now somewhat recovered, looked at the small girl he had always considered family. His gaze was filled with pride and deep gratitude for Daniel, the former teammate who had left behind an invaluable legacy. Cassie smiled gently and placed her hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You think Daniel would be proud of her, right?" Ethan nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving Alicia. "Definitely. He always said Alicia was our last hope. Now, I understand that more than ever." Cain stepped closer to Alicia, silently standing beside her, his gaze filled with empathy and understanding. Alicia turned to look at Cain and gave a soft smile. "Cain, thank you for always being by my side. I couldn't have done this without you." Cain smiled warmly, sincerely responding, "No, Alicia. You've given me the strength to find the true meaning of life. We're not alone, and we will never let anyone else feel alone again." Alicia looked around at the new friends, those who had been isolated, hurt, and in pain just like her. Now, they had become a real family, bound together by a common goal to protect the innocent from the exploitation and oppression of forces like Rayon. One of the recently rescued Helix subjects, a short-haired girl named Emma, stepped forward, her eyes glistening with emotion. "We always thought we were mistakes, something shameful we had to hide. But now, because of you, Alicia, we understand that we have the right to choose. We want to live as free people and help others who can't do that yet." Alicia nodded firmly, her voice resonating clearly, filled with inspiration. "We once thought that the Helix project took everything, our lives, our hopes, even ourselves. But that's not true. The project only showed us one thing. We are stronger than they ever imagined. And now, that strength belongs to us, to be used for the right purposes." The group nodded in agreement, smiles on their faces filled with trust and determination. Alicia looked at all of them, for the first time feeling whole, strong, and truly free. Ethan stepped closer to Alicia, his voice warm and trusting. "Alicia, I want you to remember one thing. The road ahead won't be easy, but you don't have to walk it alone. We will always stand by your side." Alicia smiled softly, her eyes filled with gratitude and affection. "I know, Uncle Thatcher, and I'll never forget that." At that moment, she took out her father's old watch, the one that had accompanied him through the hardest years of his life. Alicia held it tightly in her palm, the cold metal lines seeming to contain all the love, sacrifice, and courage her father had shown. In that moment, it felt as though her father's familiar voice echoed clearly in her mind, strong and full of affection. "You weren't born to obey. You were born to choose." Alicia took a deep breath, feeling her father's words as an endless source of strength flowing through her mind and heart. She understood that, no matter how complicated or painful her past had been, her future was entirely in her hands. She would never let anyone define who she was again. With that resolve, Alicia lifted her head high, staring ahead toward the horizon where the sun was shining brightly, as if promising a completely new future, one where she would fight tirelessly for freedom, justice, and equality for all those who had been oppressed, discriminated against, and hurt. In that brilliant golden light, Alicia walked forward with her loyal companions. Because from now on, they were no longer test subjects. They were warriors, protectors, pioneers on the long journey ahead. And Alicia knew deep in her heart that her father was smiling, forever proud of her. Not because she had defeated Helix, but because in the end, she had chosen to live life on her own terms. Because she was not born to obey. She was born to choose. Thus, Alicia and her companion's journey came to a close, but the story of the power of choice and courage would echo on. Alicia proved that no matter how painful or complicated your past may be, your future is in your hands, and you can decide who you will become. What do you think of Alicia's final choice? If you were in her shoes, what would you do if you discovered you were part of a secret project like Helix? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved or inspired you, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more captivating stories. Thank you for being with us. See you in the next video.